Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. Just dropped a Mike Force podcast. I'll make sure I link that down below. And also, if you're not following my Patreon, follow my Patreon. Membership is free. You can catch the underground episode of this, which is the uncensored version, discussing a lot of things that I can't talk about openly here because you know why. We're just in that kind of world. I want to talk about this attack that happened in Boulder, Colorado. A lot of the details aren't specifically covered, but also I want to offer a little bit of advice on ways to mitigate your risk during a potential terrorist attack and my prediction on things to come. Before we get into it, let's roll this clip of this guy, Mohammed Solomon, who's the guy responsible for injuring these 8 people, charged with 16 counts of attempted murder. Let's go ahead and roll this clip so you can see what happened.
Why is that Come on! I wish I had my gun with me. I'd do it.
Pretty bad.
Everybody get back! Get back! Don't be filming us! Get back! Get back! Tell me to get in the car! Tell me to do the better tonight! America, wake up! This terrorist will end America!
All right, so this is Mohammed Solomon, 45 years old, living in Colorado Springs. So this dude decides he's going to attack these innocent people, and he had planned it for a year. Allegedly, he had waited until one of his daughter's graduation, because he has 5 kids, one of his daughter's high school graduation to be completed before he decided to do this attack. So Solomon shows up with 18 Molotov cocktails. His plan? To kill everybody. That was his plan. He winded up only throwing 2 Molotov cocktails in a group of 20 people that weren't even protesters. Now, this is a weekly demonstration that happens every Sunday. Solomon knew this, and his intention was to kill everybody. He threw the 2 Molotov cocktails in the group and winds up injuring half of the group with 2 Molotov cocktails. And according to the affidavit, they say he stopped throwing more Molotov cocktails because he had never hurt anybody before and he was scared. The age ranges of the victims are 52 to 88. Now, I talk about this a little bit in my Mike Force podcast episode, but the oldest victim was a Holocaust survivor. He was born in Egypt, lived 17 years in Kuwait, came here illegally, and he's yelling "Free Palestine" while he's throwing Molotov cocktails. So as of right now, 3 people are still hospitalized. 5 have been released. And this guy's facing state and federal charges. Now, he's being held right now on a $10 million cash-only bond, including attempted murder charges and a federal hate crime. This guy, if convicted, which he will be convicted, certainly, will spend the rest of his life behind bars, as he should. Now, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have just rolled up his entire family, his wife and his 5 children, because they want to know if anybody else knew about this attack. Now, it's hard for me to believe, based on his radical ideology, that he could keep silent about his plans or even his motivations. Maybe they didn't directly know that he was going specifically to attack people, but they certainly knew he was capable of doing that. So more charges to follow for his potential family members. We'll see. Now, one of the alarming components to this is he was in the country illegally. He had a B-2 visa. This B-2 visa expired in February of 2023, and he continued to stay in the country illegally. If you're wondering what a B-2 visa is simply a tourist visa, or you're going to visit somebody. It's a temporary visa. He had this visa and overstayed his February 2023 expiration date. Now, as he was taken in, he was asked about his motivations, and he had this to say, in quotes, "To kill all Zionist people" was his motivation. According to an FBI affidavit, Zionism is a reference to the movement to establish a protected Jewish state in Israel. So his whole entire motivation, he didn't have a targeted preference on how many. He just stated he wanted to kill them all. And what's even more disturbing, is how easy he was able to blend in. You know what he did? He pretended to be a gardener. As these people flowed through their demonstration into this square, he was a gardener blending in, and then he launched his attack. According to some reports, he had a makeshift flamethrower and the 18 Molotov cocktails. Now, what's crazy is he just threw 2 of them and was able to create catastrophic results from just the 2. That leads to the question, 1, is this something that we have to worry about? You just look at the things that, for example, Harvard and Columbia University are dealing with the administration. These universities that have a lot of federal taxpayer dollars invested, where Harvard University's student body, 30% of that student body is foreign nationals, they were spewing and allowing the radicalization, the rhetoric that was anti-Semitic, that's been proven, anti-Semitic, property damage and violent acts. And you have to sit back and ask yourself, how many of the people radicalized are actually American citizens versus who are the people that are in this country illegally who have a facilitated and enabled ability to attack anybody they want now? Because if you wanted to kill the infidel, well, everybody around you is an infidel. If you wanted to kill the Zionist, well, everybody around you is a potential Zionist. For this guy, Muhammad Solomon, living in Colorado Springs, so conveniently takes a joyride with his Molotov cocktails, lands in the middle of a demonstration, and injures many more. Now, this comes on the heels, barely a week, after a man kills 2 Jewish nationals who belonged to the Israeli embassy that were a husband and wife that were coming out of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. The radical ideology that's motivating these people, in this case, these men, to go out and attempt to murder people or straight up murder people is only the beginning. Because these type of things are going to encourage others to get their jihad on. Al-Qaeda's main propaganda machine was a magazine that was both online and periodical that was called Inspire. Why? Because they understood the significance of motivating and inspiring those that wanted to take action that didn't know what to do. Essentially, these radicals, these terrorists that are conducting these attacks are setting the example. And there's going to be copycats because this is not an isolated incident. The chief of police of Boulder downplayed this entire situation. I mean, if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's a duck till you confirm otherwise. To come out in a press conference, which I found alarming, with a special agent from the FBI, I'm sure Kash Patel was not happy about this, that decided to talk about political talking points and divisive cultures in society, he should have been focused on the investigation. Same thing for the Boulder City Police Department, the police chief. He's like, it's too early to come out to say anything, and he would be irresponsible. No, it's more responsible if you call a spade instead of pretending like it's not, because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. That is the problem with our country. There are things that are happening in the justice system and combating terrorism and hate crime and anti-Semitism in our public universities. Nobody wants to confront the main issues here. A man participating in women's sports and crushing them is a problem. So let's speak up and call a spade. But we don't want to do that. And the Boulder City Police Chief certainly didn't want to do it. Let's play this clip.
FBI is already calling it a targeted terror attack. Mm-hmm. Would you also refer to it as a terror attack?
So I've been in contact with our local FBI multiple times. We are in contact with them here. We are not calling it a terror attack at this point. Again, it's way too early to speculate motive. I know there's a lot out there on social media, but I ask people just to give us a little bit of patience while we work through a really complex scene. A lot of witnesses were here. We've taken them to another location to debrief them and interview them. As we do that, I think the picture will become more clear. But it would be irresponsible for me to speculate on motive this early on. We're only a couple hours into this thing.
This guy was yelling "Free Palestine," throwing Molotov cocktails. He's a terrorist. He is not somebody who had a bad day. He didn't have a mental health issue. This was a deliberate and intentional attack of terrorism. Call it what it is. if it's not the radical Free Palestine movement going after people, it's something else. There's going to be a group out there that is being radicalized, willing to take the extra steps to hurt somebody. In this particular case, you had an age range, senior citizens essentially, that were demonstrating, showing their solidarity by walking together. The one thing that you could do to avoid this kind of situation is avoid large crowds that are demonstrating or protesting for a specific reason. And I know what you're going to say. That's not what liberty and freedom looks like. Unfortunately, based on the situation that we're living in today's society, where the American citizen is capable of conducting an attack like this, but the probability of them doing it versus the millions of gotaways entered into this country and the millions of documented, I mean, they're undocumented as in they're illegal, but documented that they came into this country illegally, you have a recipe for disaster. You have an insurgency that hides in plain sight, looks like a gardener, and then chucks a Molotov cocktail at you and lights you on fire. Now, one of the things that's disturbing about the scene that was unfolding via the video that I showed you earlier on is nobody was really confronting this guy who had 2 Molotov cocktails in his hands and was ready to do something. One of the issues with not having or not promoting and advocating for an armed society, when you do the opposite, for example, members of Congress have come out and used this as an opportunity to talk about gun control. Can you imagine a scenario where this would take place in, for example, Dallas, Texas? If there was a civilian that was even in the crowd of demonstrators, they would potentially be armed. This guy starts chucking Molotov cocktails. He's using deadly force. He's a threat to you and everybody else. Deadly force is justified against that person holding the Molotov cocktails. He wasn't confronted at all. Police showed up and arrested him. You're holding a Molotov cocktail, you might as well be wearing a suicide vest. Because if that's able to get out of my hands, it's lighting somebody on fire. And it's going to hurt somebody or potentially you. So one, be armed if you're going to be in these groups. First recommendation is just don't go to these protests. Don't go to these large gatherings and these large crowds. But if you do, because you're exercising your freedom, your constitutional rights, that's okay. Just be prepared to deal with things like this. It's one of the reasons why more and more people are becoming armed in synagogues, in churches, and everywhere across the country where you belong to a group that has an opposing ideology that wants to potentially kill you. Another element to this is this guy pretended to be a gardener. A lot of groups or protesters that are demonstrating don't have good situational awareness, a plan, a process, a protocol at all for things like this to happen. Now, if they did, they might have had, for example, an advance team. We call it an advon. They might have had a recon element to walk out ahead to be able to surveil and observe. Anybody in the vicinity could at least get eyes on to identify if they're a potential threat. And if they are, you keep an eye on them. And as long as you have the capability, whether it's dialing 911 and then using a self-defense firearm to defend that group, then that's better than nothing, especially if you're just a spectator. If you're a spectator and you're watching this demonstration and you're on the outskirts, you're even in more danger because the insurgent could be hiding with you. This is a very simple attack. Can you imagine the situation where this guy ended up straw purchasing a firearm or getting a firearm somehow, some way, which is really easy in America? I mean, the cartel does it every single hour of every single day, sending them back home for the eventual fight against the American military potentially. So if this guy was able to get a firearm, he would have easily created more casualties and done a lot more damage. Again, if one person, these people who are holding up cameras trying to film this guy, I want you to take a step back and just remember something. If a person commits an act of violence against other people, they've already flipped the switch. Not figuratively, literally. They've already committed to their jihad. If they are doing that, filming them and showing them that you're filming them is the most dangerous course of action for your individual safety, or if you have your family or you care about the community, for everybody else. Because that person likely is going to get desperate. Instead, it should have been a law-abiding citizen holding him down with a pistol, using self-defense and protecting the lives of other people around him. And if he had a firearm, it could have been a lot worse. Now I'm going to head off into the underground episode and do the specific tactics that you do related to the pew pew. If you want to follow up with me in the underground, make sure you click the Patreon link down below. Guys, I appreciate you. Just dropped Mike Force. Just dropped the video on the 1250 GS Adventure comparison. Got a few more videos coming out this week for my Patreon. Super stoked about doing more content and education on all things preparedness. I appreciate you. Till next time. Peace out, guys.